Hi everyone, welcome back to another video here at Main-Tec. In this video I'm just covering the basics on how to safely remove this road wheel and raising the vehicle nice and safely so that you can carry out this job with confidence. Okay, so some common equipment that you're going to need to carry out the simple job of removing a road wheel and reinstalling it is a trolley jack, which we've just got over here. Okay, so that'll raise the vehicle nice and safely as opposed to the scissor jacks that we get in the boot of the car. Okay, and then we need a breaker bar just down here, which is going to slacken off our wheel bolts or wheel nuts, whichever you have, at 90 degrees. Okay, after they've been done up really tight, you're going to need a piece of a tool like this, which will just make the life a lot simpler for you to do that. And then we've got a torque wrench just here so that we can make sure that when we reinstall the wheel, it's torqued up to the correct tightness, and we know that we're not overstressing the bolts or we haven't got the wheel bolts too loose. Okay. Just here I've got a wire brush, and if you don't have one of those you can use some sandpaper, as we can just clean up the mating surfaces between the wheel itself and the face of the brake disc. Okay, so in this position here we've got our jack next to the vehicle ready to raise it, but what we need to make sure, first things first, is that where we're raising the vehicle we've got the correct location actually on the side of the car, so that we're jacking the car up in the reinforced section on the jacking point. So I'll just show you where that is now. Okay, so coming down underneath the side of the vehicle for where you're looking to actually raise the car, we obviously want to make sure that we're placing our jack in the correct position under here so that we're not causing any damage and the vehicle is safely raised. Now, very commonly on cars, what you see is on these sections here, so on the trims, we can sometimes have a locator which pinpoints you to where you want to actually place the jack on your car to raise it safely. So this one here has a triangular shape just on the trim. Okay, so what we're doing is we're using this locator to line up straight to this point here, which points down. So this is here is called your sill, and this is the section lined up with that arrow where we've got a reinforced member so that you can raise your vehicle safely. Right then, so next point is I've got the jack in its position. It's lined up here on the sill, just down here, so on the jacking point. And as you can see, it's in the central location of the arrow, the locator, on the side of the trim of the car. So we can line up the cup on top of the jack, and that's going to come into this position here and raise our vehicle safely. So I'll just show you how to do that now. So I've turned the jack handle in the clockwise position to just lock it up. And now I'm just going to pump that jack at a nice controlled pace, and we can start to see the vehicle raising up. So I'm just going to leave it there for a moment. Now, some vehicles come with some wheel caps, okay, so on the actual wheel bolt caps on the sides, so they just look like these here, so they just go straight over the tops of the wheel bolts or the wheel nuts, just like this. So all you need to do to remove those is get yourself a little pick like this, hook it into the side like that, and then just pull that away, okay? So the next step here, what we need to make sure is that this being an alloy wheel, for a safety measure, they always make sure that they are fitted with a locking wheel nut key, which has a little location like this, okay? And that's just an anti-theft device, so make sure you've got that on you. And all you're going to do is just place that on your wheel bolt, just turn it until it's got a nice clean contact like this. And then what we want to do is, with our breaker bar, is just locate on to our wheel bolts. And all we want to do is just crack them off at 90 degrees. Okay, so just like that. Okay, we'll just do this on each wheel bolt. And that just makes life much easier when the vehicle is raised and the weight of the vehicle isn't pressing down. It's going to make life very, very difficult for you if it's up in the air already prior to you cracking these wheel bolts off. So it's just approximately a quarter of a turn or 90 degrees, and then we're ready to safely raise the vehicle. Okay, so next step in the process is just raising the vehicle so that we can get the tyre clear from the floor level. And all we're looking for, it doesn't need to be really high up in the air. All you're looking to do is just have approximately 2 to 3 inches clearance of the tyre to the road level, and that's all we're looking to do. So I'm just going to come over, and with the jack I'm just going to pump that up, okay? And as I pump it up, you can just see the vehicle starting to raise up, and the tyre, as you can see there, we've got just approximately a couple of inches clearance at the ground, and that's absolutely perfect for us now to remove this road wheel. So whenever you're carrying out a job like this, it's always ideal if you use every single piece of safety equipment that you can, okay, just to make sure that the vehicle is safe and the risk of the vehicle being able to move or fall off the jack is eliminated. So what we're going to use here is this component just here. So this is called an axle stand, and what we're going to do is we're going to place our axle stand on a reinforcer, a really strong member underneath the vehicle, such as the subframe, okay, or it could go onto a jacking point, etc. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take you under the car and I'll show you just where to locate this, okay, so that on top of the vehicle it's all nice and sturdy, it's nice and safe. We'll place this under, and then we'll go through the next process of just chocking our road wheels just to make sure that the vehicle is perfectly safe. Okay, so here we are under the car, and this is what I was just talking about with your axle stand, making sure it's located on a nice reinforced and strong member. So this big unit up here, this is our subframe, and that's one of the strongest areas of the car. But as we can see, we've got our suspension arm just here. Now, what we don't want to be doing is ever lowering or raising the weight of a vehicle on a suspension arm like this, okay? It's not designed for that. But what we can see just at the back here is this this component just down here has a compliance bush area in there, so that's for the back of the suspension arm. Now, what you can do is this casing, which is really conveniently shaped for the shape of the axle stand, as you can see here, you can place the axle stand just under here, because this is a nice reinforced and strong member here, so we can lower the vehicle down onto that position there, and then we've got an extra safety measure in place for while we're carrying out our work. So as you can see, I've now lowered the vehicle nice and gently just down onto that axle stand, and you can see that the contact points that that's made is really nice and strong, and we know that we've got a nice sort of safe working environment that we've set up here. Now, as sort of just extra safety, like I say, I've got the axle stand here which supports the weight of the vehicle while we're working on it, and then I always like to keep the jack just not actually pumping it up. I've just locked it off in the clockwise direction, so just clockwise direction here, and then I just make sure that the jack is located on that jacking point, and then we've got two sort of components there responsible for our safety, and that's just making sure that we can't have any accidents. Okay everyone, so we're just at the rear of the vehicle here. Now, to make sure that the vehicle can't roll forwards or backwards, the best safety measure you can put in place here while working on the vehicle is to chock the wheel. Okay, so if we chock the rear wheels, it does prevent it from rolling forwards or backwards, and it stays nice and secure for while you're working on the vehicle itself. So if you don't have any chocks, you can use different things like a piece of wood or a brick or something, which I'm just going to show you now. So if you just grab something like a brick, you can just slide it straight by the tyre there, one in front and one behind, and that prevents the vehicle from being able to roll forwards or backwards, and we've got a nice safe condition for us to work on the car. Okay then, so actually now back to removing the road wheel itself. So what you can do here is you can just use the socket on the end of your breaker bar that you use to just crack the wheel bolts off, or if you have a ratchet you can use that, or you can purchase something like a little cordless impact gun like this, which just makes life much faster. And all we're going to do is just remove each one of the wheel bolts and just place them down next to you so that none of them become lost. Okay, and after removing your last bolt, just place your hand on the alloy like this so that it can't fall off, and then all you're looking to do is just nice firm grip of the wheel and just remove it just like that from the car, and then we're exposing our brake assembly. Okay, so now you've seen how to actually remove your road wheel nice and safely. What we're going to do is just go back into the process of reinstalling the wheel, and just to make some nice quick tips. So lots of wheels nowadays, okay, are very heavy. All right, so just like this one here, they are quite heavy even though they're aluminium alloy. All right, so what you can do is just raise with the vehicle in this sort of position. We don't have a massive clearance to the road surface and where the wheel needs to come. So just a quick tip is, if you want to, just line up your brake disc so that you've got a bolt right at the top, so it's nice, easily and accessible, and do the same on your road wheel. So as you raise the road wheel up, just have one of the bolts just in a position where it's really easy to line up the bolt itself. Okay, and then one other little tip for you to make life much easier is sometimes using your fingers to put these into the recess of the alloy wheel is quite difficult. So if you leave the bolt either in the locking wheel nut key, it just gives you a bit more of a longer reach, so it just makes it easier to start the thread off by hand. Okay, or you can get the socket that you've used, and that gives you an even longer reach so that you can actually locate that through the alloy wheel. Okay. Okay, so next things first is just line the wheel back to where you approximately want it, lining up that top bolt. I'm just going to offer up the wheel to the hub assembly, and I'm just going to have my bolt ready in my socket. And then what I'm going to do is just place the wheel on my foot, so that just helps sort of raise the wheel up to the approximate height that we're looking to do. And then all we're going to do is just slide that onto the hub assembly, look through the holes that you can see where your bolts go, and you can just wiggle the wheel left and right to line up those holes. And then just using your hand is just going to support the wheel to stop it from just falling off. And then, as I stated earlier, just like this, because as you can see as a perfect example, that's really difficult to get your fingers into those small recesses in the alloy wheel. So if you have a socket like this with the bolt in there, you can just simply come here and line up the bolt nice and easily. And then once you've got that into a nice snug position, you can't turn it anymore, you can just turn that back round so that we've got the bolt that we've put in first at the bottom there. And then all we're going to do is just put the rest of our bolts in like that and just make them nice and snug all the way round the wheel. So just get all of these in, and just make sure you take extra care with your locking wheel bolts, just to make sure that these two patterns line up nice and clear, nice and cleanly, just like that. Okay, just give it a shake from left to right so you know that it's good. And then this one, you can just rotate in like that, and all you're doing is just putting all the bolts in until they're nice and snug by hand, just like that. And then you can either get your breaker bar you had earlier, or a speed brace or something like that, or a ratchet. Just hold the tire still and just pull that round until it's nice and snug. Okay, and just do that on all of your bolts. And you can see I'm going from top to bottom just to spread the load across the wheel. Okay, and it's just nipping those up. Nothing really tight, doesn't need to be at this stage. And plus we can't really make it as tight as we need to, because as we turn like this with no weight on the wheel's just going to spin for you. So that's where we just nip them up, and then we're going to lower the vehicle down, and then we're going to use our torque wrench to make sure that these are all nice and tight. So before we can lower the vehicle down, what we need to do first is raise the vehicle slightly so that we can release the axle stand that we've got underneath the car, just obviously for our safety. So we're just going to pump the jack up, just a couple of pumps, and that will just give us enough clearance to come under the car, as you can see on our axle stand. And we've got enough clearance there now to just move that lever, drop the axle stand down, and then we can just simply slide the axle stand out the way. Okay. So the next step of our process, now that the axle stand is released, we've removed the chocks from the rear wheel, is just double check around just to make sure you don't have anything lying under the car. Okay, so nothing can get crushed. And we're just going to turn the jack handle now into the anti-clockwise direction so that we can let the vehicle come down nice and slowly. Now when you do release these, just turn it very slowly and gradually, because that will bring the car down at a nice controlled rate. Otherwise, your vehicle with the weight over the jack, if you turn it really quickly, it's just going to hit the deck really fast. Okay, so we'll just go for that. So here we go. So just nice, slow disengagement there. And as you can see, vehicle coming down nice and slowly. Okay, the weight of the vehicle comes down over the tyre. And then we're able to release our jack and just bring it away from the car, ready for using our torque wrench. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to be using is a torque wrench, just to make sure that the road wheel bolts are all tightened up to the correct specifications, because we don't want them too tight, and obviously we don't want them too loose, because we don't want to cause any damage to the threads. Okay, so always consult your vehicle handbook here, because you can have the various details in there. If you don't know, you can phone up your local manufacturer and they'll be able to, following you giving them your registration number, they can tell you how tight your road wheels need to be. So if you don't have any resources for that, just give your local manufacturer a quick call and they can tell you how tight they need to be. Okay. So locating the torque wrench just on our wheel bolts here, I'm just going to push down until I hear that click, and I'm just going to go across in a star formation so I can spread that load just like that. Okay, so spreading the load across the wheel, waiting for the torque wrench to click, and then extra care on your locking wheel nut bolt just to make sure that it is nice and taut and you've got good contact there so we don't cause any damage. Exact same again, push down until it clicks. Now you can replace obviously your locking wheel nut bolt into the boot or the glove box, wherever you found it. The wheel caps can all go back on, so these here, so we can put all of these wheel covers back on, so they just slot straight over like this. Don't have to be done in any specific order. And then once they're on, that's perfect, and that will get yourself out of trouble or to carry out any maintenance. So if you have a puncture, using this video, it can show you how to take off your wheel. You can put your spare on the exact same process that I've just shown you here. You can get your vehicle down and obviously give them your tyre that has a puncture and get it repaired or replace tyre, etc. Or if you're just doing general DIY, this is the simple step-by-step process of removing that road wheel and working nice and safely using things like your chocks, your axle stands and your trolley jack. I hope this was nice and helpful for you. Please like, subscribe and comment. If there are any other tasks that you would like to see done, or you have any questions, please just comment and I look forward to replying. Thanks very much for watching.